Good morning. I'm Richmond Simpson, and I'm proud to be on the board of Health Enterprise Network. I am also president and CEO of Vimark, and we're a healthcare marketing firm that shares the passion of serving our aging population. I think we're really going to switch gears now, and this is going to be fun. So, what if programming in nursing homes was so interesting that families and neighbors wanted to come and participate alongside elders? What if it was so out of the ordinary that sparked interest in the community? Our next presenter implemented a program across 3 Kentucky nursing homes that brought together elders, staff, volunteers, and artists, and sparked the creation of the retelling of the classic story from our childhood. Wendy's Neverland is retelling Peter Pan. So please welcome today Signatures Healthcare's Angie Mcallister.
Hey everybody, can you hear me okay? All right, I have a loud voice, so if I move around, I assured her that you would probably still be able to hear me. It'll also keep you awake if you try to go to sleep during this little 45-minute session. So over the last several years, I have just had the blessed opportunity to work with many of our elders, about 1,200 in fact, on building out a site-specific performance that took place in 3 of our nursing homes this spring. And so I'm going to give you an overview and a little bit of what that project looked like. I'm really thankful to get the opportunity to come and be with you all, and just for your recognition that creativity is actually innovation at its best, right? And when we can tap into the creativity of our elders, our residents, or senior adults, sometimes that's a population that gets left out when we're looking at arts funding and all of those things, which I've learned over the last few years in this project. So my partner in this project is Professor Ann Basting from the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. She is not with us today, but she is also sending her blessings. And it was about, I heard her first in 2009 talking about doing a project similar to this, but on a much lower scale, I must admit, in Milwaukee. And we connected, and since that time, in 2016, we decided, how could we really bring this to Signature Healthcare, and how could we really transform the communities, and not just our homes where our elders are living, but the community in general, by bringing artists and residents into our communities to help us with that. I also just want to clarify that our funder for this project is the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The OIG funded us through a CMP grant to launch this project. We are in a 3-year project, and it is, as I had just told Richard, it's a research project, and so I won't be alluding to a lot of the outcomes, but I will say we've had several really great outcomes so far. So what is our goal? What is it that we're really trying to do? And it's really simple. This project, along with many others and a lot of your life's work, is to bring meaning and purpose to people who are living and working in nursing homes. And so how can we do that? We can do that by working together to create a new and ambitious life for those people that really drives purpose. And just like Richard alluded in the opening, what if programming was so intentional and so interesting that people really wanted and they begged to come be part of that? And that's been part of our goal, is to bring the community in, and in a lot of ways in our rural communities make those cultural centers of the community. And actually, we have been successful in launching and doing that initiative over the last 12 months. So what is it anyway? What have we been doing? And so while 3 of our nursing homes had site-specific performances, we're actually working with 12 nursing homes altogether across the state of Kentucky. And those 12 nursing homes have been going through an initiative, a new training that was created by Professor Basting called Creative Community of Care. And you all can look at her website, timeslips.org, to get more information on what Creative Community of Care processing is. Who's involved? Well, everybody, because it's a community project. So first and foremost, our residents, our elders. whatever you like to call all of our staff, family members. We've had huge involvement from family members in this project. Students from neighboring colleges. We have had a ton of interest and actually just launched our first student artist in residence program in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They were not involved in this project, but in conjunction with Western Kentucky University, we have a live student artist in residence program in cooperation with the university there, volunteers, and then regional artists. So we also hired, and you all may recognize a few of these artists, like Cheyenne Mize, who is from here in Louisville and really well known, working with organizations in Louisville as a music therapist. This is our national group of artists who have helped us to orchestrate this project from the beginning. A great bunch, and probably not a bunch. If you look at this group of artists, you would probably say, those aren't people that I could see working and fitting into a long-term care environment. Would you all agree? And I think that my first meeting with our director, Bob Martin, top right there, Mr. Bob Martin was at a tea shop in Berea, Kentucky, where I told him, here's the vision that we have for this project, and will you be available to come on board with us? Because we had heard that he was the best director for plays in the state of Kentucky and actually on a national level. So we also were able to hire Kevin Jeff, who's participated in this project. And he is a choreographer from Chicago who owns his own dance studio and has choreographed on Broadway numerous things. And so he came on to the project by will and grace, just giving us a little bit of grace as his father was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia and has since passed away since he's begun on the project with us. So that's just an overview of the talent that we were able to bring in through funding, just to really teach us how could we transform our nursing homes into a performance site, and what does that look like? What does that build up? So our project's divided into some distinct phases, and I'm going to walk through what those phases look like. But we actively started putting together the research and training for this project in January of 2018, believe it or not. And so actually, Ann and I submitted a grant 27 times before that date, but that's our official start date when our funding came through for the project. So in that time, we had researched this idea based loosely on the theory of Peter Pan, I won't grow up. And how do we help people who are older, who are living in our homes, associate with a fairy tale or a story that they are very familiar with? Because we can all say in this room that we're familiar with the story of Peter Pan, I would say, at some level or another. When you look deeply into the story of Peter Pan, you start to see some themes in there that really coincide with people who are getting older and dementia care. And some of those themes are the presence of stories, as in Wendy always went to Neverland to read stories to the lost boys. And so when you look at that and bring that into the long-term care environment, how do we engage our people in programming around the building of their story, their life story, or maybe their community story? So in the first year of this project, between 2018 and 2019, which is when our performances happened, we did several creative challenges. And in those creative challenges, we asked people to do a lot of different things. For example, can you build a story of your life? And can you associate with something from your childhood? And can you associate with something from adulthood? And then what about elderhood? Because sometimes we leave elderhood out when we're talking about the phases of life, right? We go from childhood to adulthood, but what about elderhood? And what about the purpose of living in elderhood that we can find that's sometimes often reflected in our past? And that was what we called the creative generation phase. And in that phase, our artists went to all of our communities and they did day residencies in our community. So they did 5 days overall, working with elders to build out new songs. Cheyenne helped our elders write new songs, songs that were original to them. Things based on their life, or what does it feel like to be at home? Let's write a song about what it feels like to be at home. Things like that. Our muralist, Angie Redloth, who lives in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and some of you may know Andy for her great work and community building, doing murals downtown areas. she did great work in helping to paint the picture of home or paint the picture of flying. Whatever the themes were, our elders built all of the performance pieces for their own performance. They drove this festival of their own accord, and we merely just steered the ship to help get it done, which was a very enlightening and purposeful experience. And then when we actively began to plan the festivals themselves, which happened in the spring of this year, and I'm going to show you some pictures next on what those festivals looked like, because I think that you're going to really be able to get the idea of what that could be. So this is a really quick video that kind of gives an overview of what the project's doing, and I'm going to show you that. It's just a couple minutes long, and then we're going to go into the actual performances themselves, what happened, how we did that, and what the outcomes of that might have been.
Today launches two things that are very exciting. One is a project that Angie and I have been dreaming up for several years called I Won't Grow Up. And it's really a multi-year effort to try to infuse the concepts you're going to hear about this morning into the care systems of the state.
This project in Kentucky is 12 rural nursing homes that we are training with what we call creative communities of care training.
We also opened it to other folks working from either arts or aging, whatever your angle in, so that we can all help motivate the fields to change and merge together to try to bring meaning and purpose into the lives of every elder.
Life doesn't end when you go to live in a nursing home, and that growth can continue all the way until the end of life.
You know, we're not making a lot of progress in regards to managing problems like dementia. It's predicted that over the next few decades, we're going to have many more patients with dementia. And the fact that we don't have any pharmacological or medicational treatments for dementia, we do need a lot of focus on managing our patients with non-pharmacological maneuvers, particularly the arts.
Everybody brings anything differently about that. We have a lot of artists in here that you don't think you're an artist. We're only at the very beginning stage of creative confidence. We're going to reestablish our creative confidence. Look around, we just created some exhibits.
Being in the arts, we make plays, and that word is very critical. It's vital to life, and I think when you stop playing, then you stop living to some degree.
I think one of the major issues with care communities and aging populations, social isolation is one of the hardest things to contend with, and how do we support our elders engaging in the community still.
We're so alike on the inside, and this just gives us a chance to build those bridges to make sure that we feel validated, you know, even if we can't remember what we said the day before.
Okay, so that's just a little brief introduction to what the project looked like. Over the last year and a half, it became really evident that people feel that they're not creative. Do any of you ever catch yourself saying, I'm just not a creative person? I'm going to leave that to Jason. I'll pick on you. I'm going to leave that to Jason because he's so creative, and I'm going to stay in my lane. Anybody out there kind of catch that? So I will say that I have a true belief that creativity is born within all of us, and it's how we choose to develop it over the course of our lifetime by the experiences that we're part of, the culture that we're a part of, or the influence on our lives. A lot of times when we come into the education system, that creativity is kind of skewed or maybe not as encouraged as we're looking for more of a standardized response to how we should engage with people. Would you all agree on that? And so as we came into this experience, some of my favorite experiences from it were elders saying, I can't paint, I can't draw, I don't know anything about theater. I went to my grandchild's play at school, right? I went and did that once, but I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so as we just began to help them open up to their own creativity, it became evident that we have some very, very talented people living in our communities and working in our communities, and the engagement from them in this has been really huge. So some of the things that we did to launch that creativity is something I alluded to a little bit ago, called Creative Challenges. And so the programming in these 12 nursing homes, anybody out here know about nursing home programming? Yeah, right. So a lot of times it's, bingo, which I really hate, as you can imagine, Bible study. We do a lot of this copy and paste programming, like show up and see 20 people and have coffee with them first thing in the morning that you probably don't know and don't really want to talk to first thing in the morning. And sometimes it's not, she's laughing because she understands exactly what I mean. Or schedule a trip to Walmart and you get to go once every 30 days or wherever you want to shop at. And so I can pick on that because I've been in this field for 25 years. So I can pick on programming just a little bit because it's a pet peeve of mine. The entire word itself, programming, is just not a good word. And so when we look at individualized care and how do we really engage people in the world around them. So all of the things that were on what we would call the activities calendar in these 12 homes came off, and they began to infuse creative challenges. So part of the research, someone asked, you asked about the research, Richard, earlier. Part of the data measurement was how many what we call creative or define as opportunities to engage creatively prior to this project were being offered in the community. And I would, from all of that, we actually come through all of the calendars, and we have an independent researcher, Kate Medeiros from the University of Miami, that's gathering all of the research for a final white paper on this that will happen next spring. But guess what? Not that many. There are very little opportunities in nursing homes for people to engage in creativity. Are any of you all in here artists or love music or just love the opportunity to engage in that way? I do too. My grandmother was an artist, and she taught me all of her best attributes over the course of her life. And so how depressing whenever we really took a good hard look at that. So at this day, a year and a half into this project, we have on a random 3 to 4 times per week where there are opportunities for elders to engage in some form of the arts, whether that's through storytelling, whether that's through creative, what I would call 3D design. We have a lot of people who are building sculptures, and there's just a lot of really cool stuff that's going on out there, music and all of that. And so the way that we started to infuse and change that programming was through a list of creative challenges, and I've listed some of them on the screen, and there's a lot more than this that happened, but we gave a list of probably 20 creative challenges every other month and said, why don't you all choose the ones that are most relevant to your community? Because not everybody wants to do the same thing, right? And we can't force everyone into that box, but how are you going to express how you're feeling about this project and about the theme? So some of the things were, we did flying lessons, and this became the daily exercise program in a lot of our communities, and actually the one thing that was most well received by the elders. And so that involved, we're going to fly to places, and it involved a meditation also of where would we fly to and what are we going to see when we get there. They love to do this, and this is something that happened every single day in most places. Looking at feelings of home, which I talked about, we wrote some original music. And then if you were thinking about flying lessons, how do you evolve that theme into, can we paint a picture about where you would want to fly to? My most favorite memory was an elder that said, I will fly to the bottom of the ocean. Well, what are you going to see at the bottom of the ocean? I don't know, but I want to fly there. And then we said, can you paint a picture of what that looks like? And she, in fact, did paint a picture of what her view of that looks like. And you can see it's her creativity. It's not wrong or it's not right. It's her perspective of if she flew to the bottom of the ocean, what might that look like for her? And then we might ask on the next time we met together, could you write a poem about that? Could we write a poem about that, the bottom of the ocean? And so you start to build that experience. And then you start to let people know all of this stuff is going to be exhibited in a performance that we're putting on, which creates a lot of excitement at the nursing home, as you might can imagine, and actually in our communities. The one thing on this list that was another big hit were fairy houses. Our elders love fairies. They love fairy houses. I really had to think about, wonder why they love this idea of magic and enchantment so much in a long-term care environment. Because nothing there is enchanted, right? So when you look at a long-term care environment, how do we start to enchant the everyday life that is around them? And so we gave our elders jobs, if you will, missions. Can you go find a place in your home and enchant it? Make it enchanted. Make it a surprise so that when someone finds it, they're like, what happened? My favorite story is we had 2 elders in Annville, Kentucky that, so if you're familiar with long-term care, in the dining rooms of most of these places, you can pull out a drawer, and that's where all of the jelly, all of the condiments might go that people want to save for any other time of use. And usually that happens in the dining room. Many of you are shaking your head because you're familiar with this condiment drawer. And so in the night, and I say at night, in the night, 2 elders went into the dining room and emptied out the condiment drawer. And they put fairy houses and notes in the condiment drawer for the stakeholders to find. And so the next morning when a CNA opened the condiment drawer, how delightful that she was so surprised that someone had snuck and enchanted that drawer. And so it was little things like that that build up to the magic of the performance space. And then another favorite of mine were the letters to Peter and Wendy, which I'm going to show you a picture of here in just a minute. So we did creative journaling exercises where our elders wrote letters to Peter. And he said to Peter, yes, to Peter Pan, these are the reasons why you should grow up. And some of the most beautiful of those letters were, you will miss out on grandchildren. You're missing out on family and experiences. And they really began to pour in the love of their life and their histories into those letters. And so we actually have thousands upon thousands of letters that were written to Peter and Wendy from our elders. And then probably the one that I've saved till last that I don't have time to show you the video from today because it's a long run, but we did I Am poems. And we did I Am poems with 1,200 elders. So every elder that lives in 12 nursing homes, I say roughly around 1,200 elders, give or take, that's an estimate, did an I Am poem. And that I Am poem consisted of 5 things. Basically, what I am my name, I am Angie. I am my favorite childhood memory. It might be chocolate ice cream, or it might be I am Panama City Beach, or I am Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And then it's I am my favorite thing to do. I am an artist. I am something that's really important to me. And most of our elders said, I am a mother, as being their most important thing that they had ever been. And then, so that builds up, and those I Am poems became transformative for our communities because it allows people to connect and see our elders not as tasks, right? Because sometimes in this environment, they become tasks, things that I need to check off my list, but as people who are living and are very much like our stakeholders. And so the I Am poems played the final role of our performance. So we'll move along. This is a scene where Cheyenne was working with a home in Hodgenville, Kentucky at one of the artist in residence events, where she was teaching them the magic of touch with music. And so we were learning the beginnings that we didn't know at that time of our wheelchair ballet. And I will say we finished all of our performances with what we lovingly call a wheelchair ballet, which was a dance that the elders did, an expressive dance that wrapped up their entire thoughts on this project. These are the signs. So Wendy's Neverland sign was created in Morgantown, Kentucky by the elders and a group of ROTC high school kids in Morgantown, Kentucky that came in and helped create this in over 2 days. And this sign lovingly got packed up and went to all of our sites. So we tried to travel with things that we created at some sites, and then we took them around to the different performances. So how did the performances go? The overline story of the performance themselves is basically this. Wendy, we're not going from the story of Peter Pan anymore. We're talking about Wendy. And Wendy is living in a nursing home. So here's the theme of the project that was built by our elders. Wendy's on hospice care, and she's living in a nursing home. Wendy is not doing well, and Wendy has pretty advanced stages of dementia as well. So the theme that the elders chose for this was the story of Wendy and how the people who worked in that nursing home loved her so much that they didn't know if they could believe her or not, because she told stories of pirates and fairies and all of those things that you might see in Peter Pan, things that were part of her life, right? So if you walk into the story of Peter Pan, you can see this tale that Wendy might have told in her older years. And now Wendy's living in the nursing home, and she's still telling the tale, but the staff there don't really know if it's true or not. Anyone experience that? Not really sure if that's true or not because she has such advanced stages of dementia, but because we love her here, we're going to recreate this world for her. So as you walk into the front of one of our buildings, we transformed our entire building. So it wasn't a performance like you all would do here, where you come in and sit in a seat and people come up here and act and perform. It was an immersive, interactive experience that roughly over 1,500 people attended over the course of our 8 performances. And so this was built into stations, and what you might see is Station 1. Station 1 was the pre-show, and at the pre-show, the elders had selected very specific songs, different at each of the 3 locations because they had songs they wanted to sing. I think here they're singing On the Sunny Side of Life, one of my favorite photos. And what happens at the pre-show is we engage local artists. As you can see here, these are all local artists. This was in Beattyville, Kentucky. Anyone ever been there? You don't get there by accident. If you go to Beattyville, Kentucky, you certainly go on purpose. And these were all local artists from Beattyville, Kentucky, who came on board with our project to really help make it special. And so they actually do the pre-show portion. So during the pre-show, we would have music, and then we would go into where one of the elders, Wendy herself, maybe, would be welcoming people into her home. And then we would enter, as an audience member, you would enter that home and that environment. And you would go to a station that we lovingly called Positive Thoughts. Positive Thoughts, as you can see right here, was a station where we hung the entire room with clouds. And as you entered the station, you were given a cloud, and you were asked to write down any positive thought, something that's positive to you and something that makes you happy. Because Wendy tells us that in order to fly, and the end goal here is to fly by the end of the show, that we're going to need to have positive thoughts. And I think you all can remember that from the story itself. And so what we did was we had a lot of fun getting thousands of positive thoughts from people and hanging those, and then traveling those positive thoughts across the state of Kentucky. There's nothing more beautiful than a room full of positive thoughts to really help you center on your life. And so that is our Station 2. So after the pre-show, you would be divided. Half of the group, half of you, maybe this half would go to positive thoughts, and this half might go to the fear station, because in order to fly, we have to get rid of some of our fears, don't we? So this was very enlightening because our elders built this, but they also took part in this. So they ran these stations with the help of stakeholders who helped them to do it. And then we had a lot of elders who just, you know what? We want to do this every day. So we had 8 days of rehearsal, and every single day elders came down and went through positive thoughts in the fear station. They did it the day before, and they loved to do it. And we got such things like this. We asked people we had 10,000 canning lids. Yeah, we did. Just like that. Our elders painted them all different colors. Those 10,000 canning lids were given to people in the fear station to put down their fears. And actually, this is one of the fears from Morgantown, Kentucky. One of the elders there that I'm very extremely close to that used to work for us. And so I had captured this from her that said, afraid of this production coming to an end, because of the purpose that she had been given during this. So how do we sustain and continue this, which is what's happening now in the final run of this thing. But so we have all of these fears. And what happens to these fears is we built a crocodile. We built a crocodile suit that was attached to a wheelchair because a lot of people have fears around aging. Would you all agree? And so for them to really see what that looks like, and we would attach people's fears from the fear station onto that crocodile suit, and then that would be, you would have the theme of the crocodile that replays as the scapegoat for our fears throughout the entire performance. So people could toss their fears over onto the crocodile, basically, and have a scapegoat for their fears, and then they could move forward, because we have to recognize both of those things, our fears and positive thoughts, if we want to go into a stage of belief. So this beautiful scene was our fourth station, where you as a crowd would come together, and you would go to flight school. And at flight school, you would learn how to fly. And so you would be asked, all right, so we're gonna stand up, we're gonna start flying, and we're gonna teach you how to get off the ground and how to have some pixie dust. So what you're seeing in this picture, the backdrop there, that's a mural, and it's an old-fashioned cranky. Everyone remember a cranky? It's kind of a thing that you crank, and a scene goes by. So it's like you're flying, but you're standing still. It was used in the movies in like the 20s, okay? And so was done in that. So we built some old-fashioned crankies, and our elders painted the scenes. And the scenes on the crankies were of destinations that they had asked and said that they wanted to fly over the last several months. And what you're seeing on that cranky is flying to the moon and the stars in the sky. And so that was a very real thing that people wanted to see and they wanted to fly to. And so there's 4 scenes to this cranky. It goes around and you get around it. And those 4 scenes represent 4 different locations. So it depended on where you were in the room, what scene that you saw when you flew. Again, to the purpose, I'm gonna make sure I'm on time here, okay? Again, to the purpose of, we had an elder living with dementia that's on one of our memory care units that painted one of these crankies along with the artist at 10 p.m. I received a picture at 10 p.m. Guess what? We're painting crankies tonight. And it was very impactful because we don't often offer programming at 10 p.m. in nursing homes, do we, friends? And I think we should. So Station 4 flight school. So after you learn how to fly, then you're taken on a walk. But before that happens, the crocodile, and this is that crocodile costume that we made. We had a set designer from New Orleans that does site-specific productions that came on to work with us, and he designed this out of pantyhose and shellac. A wood frame, pantyhose, and shellac. I kid you not, and we have this crocodile. And so the crocodile makes an appearance during flight school, and he's looking for the fears from the fear station. That's what he's looking for. He's looking for his cloak of fears. But he comes in and disrupts the happy momentum we're having in flight school, and then he runs on throughout the nursing home. Yes, he's a crocodile on the loose, and we have a lot of fun with that during the performance. And as you can see, Miss Judy there is really smiling because she really had gotten a kick out of the crocodile's appearance, as she was used to it by now after several times. But so he runs into the building, and where does he go? Well, he goes down to Wendy's diary room because he's searching for Wendy. And in Wendy's diary room, so then as a group, you would be taken on a journey. We would walk and we would sing some songs. You would be taken on a journey to Wendy's diary room. And Wendy's diary room, this is the scene from Beattyville, Kentucky, where we painted, one of our artists painted the scene, Wendy, an older Wendy and a young Peter Pan on the blinds. These are actually on the blinds that cover the courtyard, because what happened in the courtyard, I'll show you in just a minute. So here's some of those letters. Oh, do I miss playing in the creek and skipping rocks? But if I wouldn't have grown up, I never would have been able to get a job and travel around the world. But I still miss you and being able to spread my arms and fly over Neverland. These are some of those thousands of letters that I told you about. That one's not showing up too good. These are headphones that we use. I don't know if you all have heard of a tech company called Eversound. I'm sure some of you have. They do headphones. They're featured downtown at the Thrive Center. And so they came on as a sponsor for us and gave us these headphones to use. So what happens after people are listening? So we have the stories. A lot of those letters that you saw, they're coming over those headphones. So you would walk into the space, you would put that headphone on, and the elders are recorded reading their letters. So you hear that, and you become immersed in that diary room, and you become immersed in that story. And then you begin to see that there's another thing happening outside the window. And outside that window is the crocodile, and he's having a conversation with Wendy. And this is one of the three beautiful ladies that played Wendy for us. She lives down in Morgantown, Kentucky, and she's in midstream with her conversation with the crocodile, of which she's telling the crocodile that it's almost time for her to go. Because remember, Wendy is dying and she's on hospice care and we're taking care of her. And the crocodile says, but they don't believe. They don't believe yet in us. And what he refers to is they don't believe in our elders. That's the underlying theme of this story is, will you believe in them? And will you commit to believing in them and giving them a life that's filled with passion and purpose? And so, as you can see here, they have a moment, Wendy and the crocodile, and then the crocodile would lead all of you down to the final scene. And it's a very somber time, because it's at that time that we really believed and really saw that our audiences, it really sunk in, the theme of the story and the power and the magnitude of which it hits people on an individual level. It's very different for different people. And so we start to go down to the final scene, and that's what we call the belief scene. And in the belief scene, there are a couple of key things that happen. As you're walking down, our elders who are performing the wheelchair ballet are already in circle in this room for the wheelchair ballet. They're in position with staff who are helping them to perform it. And what happens is a staff member pushes a wheelchair, and we've choreographed a routine, and we shot a video of that routine, and they practiced it every day for 9 months until they learned the routine. And they did, and it was beautiful. And some of our communities still do that routine today, 3 to 6 months post this project, post performances. And as part of that, we engage with the audience. And what I mean by that is we would just say, "We believe," and an elder would hold up their hand. Richard, you would hold your hand up, and you would touch the elder's hand to signify that you do in fact believe in them. And it's a very powerful moment of intimacy between the audience and between our elders. And so that's what you're witnessing right here, but with the crocodile. We did pictures of all of the people, portraits, and that hung from the ceiling of every participant. Like I said, almost 1,200. So as you enter that final scene, you're hearing those I am poems I told you about, that I can't show you that video of today, but we could get that to you if you wanted to see it. But you're hearing the elders saying, "I am a mother. I am a grandmother. I am a veteran. I am chocolate cake. I am hopscotch. I am Monopoly." All of the things that they did in those I am poems, we voice recorded with a person from Bowling Green, Kentucky that does that and made that really beautiful. And you see their voices, and the elders are circling this space as if inviting you, come in and believe in us. Come in and be with us. Beautiful picture there. I want to go on to this one because I know time is running out. And so what happens then is We do some Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon, and that's what our wheelchair ballet is set to. And we would invite all of you to watch as our elders go through that performance of Frank Sinatra's Fly Me to the Moon. And they did a very great routine of that. It was really beautiful. But what happens before that ballet starts is as they're gathering in their places, the crocodile would walk around to each elder, and he would point to that elder, and that elder would say their name. I am Angie. I am. And what we saw over the course of their rehearsals and the production is their voices were very weak at the beginning, as in, I am Angie. But as we got towards the end, it was, I am Angie, because they were building some of that creative confidence that we talked about earlier in this session, because they were now more confident in their own creativity because as a result of being through this process. So what you're seeing here is the jubilant final scene, which was very jubilant in this picture of Alexia, one of our artists, a student artist that attends Campbellsville University that worked with us in Hodgenville, Kentucky. Some say that she looks like an angel in this picture, and I'm glad that I caught it with just my regular old iPhone as I was standing at the front of the room and to capture the magnitude of this final scene. Because what you're seeing here is beauty at its best, transformative for our staff, transformative for the community, and transformative for our elders. The two little girls there on front being some of the youngest participants that we had as part of this project, who were in the local dance company that heard about this and called and decided they were going to come over and participate. And so they wore their princess dresses and came right on. And so it was a beautiful time. And then final cast picture, and this one happens to be from Hodgenville, Kentucky, of all of the people who have participated, and we did one of these at each site. And so I know I'm running up to the end of my time, and I just want to say, when we looked at some of the measurements that were taken, a lot of it is qualitative because we did see people's lives change. We saw people actively saying, as a part of this project, I didn't know that I could do these things, but now I want to do it. And now they're having their own meetings, and we're not pushing that. What happens in the final phase of this project is all of these homes have chosen another story, and we'll be working with them in October at an on-site retreat to help build their creative challenges and help our leaders in those homes to be able to do this on their own without the help of all of those artists that we hired in the first round. And so because they've learned a lot about themselves and about their ability to do this, we're feeling like it's going to be very successful. So you'll see some more performances come out in the spring of 2020. Hodgenville is doing the story of Abraham Lincoln. The elders chose that, if anyone's interested in that. Down in Morgantown, Kentucky, they chose Tom Sawyer, and so they're working on that. Those are just a few. Out in Beattyville, Kentucky, they're doing The Wizard of Oz, and there's no place like home. And I would say the defining moment, two defining moments for me from all of the sites and all of the performances was as we ended and walked into the very last day of the Lee County Beattyville performance, the very last performance and the last day to be with them, an elder looked at me and said, "We're doing The Wizard of Oz in the spring. Are you coming back for that?" And I said, "I wouldn't miss it for anything." And there was a nurse that had worked with her the entire time, and she had pushed her in the wheelchair ballet. And the elder looked at me and said, "Well, I'm going to be the tin man." And the nurse said, "And I'll hold your heart." And I knew that they got it. They understood what that relationship meant and how they worked together. And then another one was actually here in Hodgenville, that we had a professor that's living with us in that community, a retired professor, and she was very engaged in this project from the very beginning. And as we went into the final rehearsal for the final performance that afternoon, she said, "Can somebody bring me the microphone?" And we said, "Okay, of course." And she got the microphone, and she said something that was the most beautiful of anything I've ever heard in my life. She said, "Whoever brought this to us, this nursing home, I want to thank you publicly, because we are often in the background of what happens, but this has put us in the forefront of our communities again." And I think that if there was a theme for this project and what we're doing with Wendy's Neverland, that would be the theme. So I think that's it. I think I'm at 11:45, right? Thank you all for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to find me, and I'll talk to you.